Hello learners, how are you all? And in today's lecture, we are going to start with the topic Alimentary Canal. So let us begin with the topic. So food is the fuel for our body, and the food we eat, it consists of many biomacromolecules such as carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, minerals, fats, etc., which helps in the basic functions such as respiration, digestion, excretion, blood circulation, and many more. But here's the thing, our body cannot absorb carbohydrates and proteins in its original form. So for it to digest these carbohydrates and proteins in our body relies on the gastrointestinal tract. Gastrointestinal tract, which is also known as the alimentary canal. So if the question comes by the name of gastrointestinal tract, you don't have to get confused because it is only the alimentary canal we are talking about. So our gastrointestinal tract helps in breaking down of carbohydrates and proteins. We are talking about carbohydrates and proteins and many other nutrients that we have just discussed into the simpler forms so that our body can digest and absorb it. So now let me introduce you with our human digestive system. So basically our human digestive system is the series of connected organs leading from our mouth to the anus. So as you can see in this image shown on your screen, that how long our digestive system actually is. So yes, our digestive system can be 30 feet in length and is divided into various parts such as the oral cavity, which we also call it as our mouth. So this is the first part of our digestive system. Now the next comes is the pharynx. Here the pharynx is just after the mouth, and the next part is esophagus. After that comes the stomach part of our digestive system. Then comes our small intestine. Then comes the large intestine. So these parts of our digestive system. Now here the oral cavity, the pharynx, the esophagus and the stomachs, they are the upper part of our gastrointestinal tract. So these are the upper part of our gastrointestinal tract. And if we talk about our small intestine and large intestine, now these are the lower part of our gastrointestinal tract. Now apart from these, there are many other glands and organs which also helps in the process of digestion. So those are the salivary gland, the pancreas. Now first if we talk about salivary glands, so here you see the salivary gland are here labeled, which are of three types: sublingual, submandibular and parotid, about which you are going to study later. Now next is the pancreas. Now pancreas is here the organ, the leaf-like structure you see here is the pancreas, marked just right here. Now the next comes is the liver. Now this is the organ liver, here where I have marked it. And the last part is the gallbladder. Now these organs and or glands are the accessory organs which play a very crucial role in the process of digestion. Yes, no doubt all the parts that we have discussed about play a very crucial role in digestion. But if we talk about the chemical processes, so these accessory organs that we just discussed, that is salivary gland, pancreas, liver and gallbladder, they all help in secretion of various kinds of enzyme which helps in the chemical digestion inside our human digestive system. Now let us start with the first part of our gastrointestinal tract, that is our oral cavity. And our mouth consists of teeth and tongue which helps in the mastication of food. Now our oral cavity or our mouth has number of teeth embedded in a socket of our jawbone, and this type of arrangement of teeth is called as thecodont. So here you see that the number of teeth are arranged on our socket of jaw, just shown in the image. And interestingly, most of the mammals, including us human beings, have two sets of teeth during their lifetime. And first is the permanent teeth, which is generally present in a child. And when that child grows into an adult, those temporary teeth are replaced by permanent teeth. Now, this type of arrangement, we are talking about the type of arrangement where there are two sets of teeth during the lifetime. One is temporary, another one is permanent. Now, this type of arrangement is known as diphyodont. It is known as diphyodont. So, here you see the blue colored marked teeth are actually the temporary teeth, which are later replaced and become permanent when the child becomes an adult. So now let us learn about the types of teeth. So as far as we know that teeth are used for mastication of food, that is also known as grinding of food. And we also know that teeth are temporary in case of child and permanent in case of adults. So the temporary teeth in case of child are 20 in number, and in case of adults they are 32 in number. So let us now see what their types are. So here in the image, as you can see, that the teeth which are there in our buccal cavity are of four types. So first one is the incisors. Now here, these are the incisors present here at the front, and the function of incisors are only for cutting or biting the food. So whenever you eat the apple or take the bite of any fruit or vegetable, so the teeth that you use is the incisors for cutting or biting that particular food. Now next comes the canines. Now canines are little pointed. So because these canines are pointed in their nature or their shape, so the basic function of canines are for the tearing of food. For example, if you're eating meat or any non-vegetarian food. Now you might have seen lions and tigers, so all their teeth are very pointed. So the type of teeth these animals have are the canines, and it is basically used for the tearing of food only. Now next comes the premolars. Here are the premolars present, marked. Now these premolars are used for chewing and grinding of food. So the function of premolars are only for chewing and grinding the food, not for tearing or cutting the food. Now the last one are the molars. So the molars also have the same functions. They just enhance those chewing and grinding process in a more appropriate manner. So the molars do function in chewing and grinding of our food. So now these teeth are arranged in each half of the upper and the lower jaw. So this one is the upper jaw and this one is the lower jaw. So you see that the kind of teeth we are studying about are present on the upper and lower jaw both. So yes, they represent a dental formula, that is 2, 1, 2, 3 upon 2, 1, 2, 3. Here 2 is the number for canine, 2 is the number for incisors, and 1 is the number for canines. 2 is again for premolars, and again the 2 which is written here in the dental formula is for the molars. Now specifically on premolars and molars, there is a hard chewing surface that is present and it is called as enamel. Now this enamel is quite hard in its nature, so it helps in the mastication of food. Now let us talk about tongue, which is also present in our oral cavity. Now tongue is a freely movable organ, as you can feel inside your mouth also. So the tongue which is attached to our mouth, and so the point of attachment is called as the frenulum. Now the upper surface of the tongue if you talk about the upper surface of the tongue, here is the upper surface of the tongue. Now it consists of the taste buds, which are also called as papillae. So here we are talking about the taste buds, because of which you can feel the various kinds of taste such as sourness, bitterness or sweetness. And it is because of the papilla-like structure which is present on the upper surface of the tongue. Now, if we talk about the functions of the tongue, so the first function is the mastication. It helps in the mastication of food, or known as the grinding of food. So basically, it actually aids in the mixing of food which is being grinded inside our mouth. Now, the next role of tongue is the deglutition, also known as swallowing of food. So it also helps in swallowing the food that is present in our mouth. Now, the next function is of speech. It helps in speaking also. Our tongue helps in the speaking. And also the taste. That is because of the presence of papillae on the upper surface of the tongue. Now, the next part of our digestive system is the pharynx. And pharynx serves as the common passage for food and air. So in this image, these all parts comprises pharynx here. Now it is just after our oral cavity, that is the pharynx. Now pharynx here is divided into three parts. First one is the nasopharynx. Here it is the first part of the pharynx, which is colored in blue. Here you can see. Now the nasopharynx, the function of nasopharynx, that it allows the passage of air from our nose to the windpipe. So the only function of nasopharynx is for the respiration. Now the middle part of pharynx is the oropharynx, which is marked in the green color. Now the function of oropharynx here is that it allows passage for both air, food and fluid. So here I will write down, it allows passage for air, food and fluid. So as you can see in this diagram also, that the passage of air is through the nasal cavity here, and the passage of food is through our mouth just from here. So this is the nose and this is the mouth. So yes, the opening of mouth and nose is both through the oropharynx, the middle part of our pharynx. So now the last part or the bottom part of the pharynx is the laryngopharynx. Now laryngopharynx actually regulates the passage of air and food or fluid that you take. So basically how it functions is, whenever you eat the food, it regulates the food part in the esophagus directly and the air that you breathe inside the windpipe. So basically laryngopharynx only helps in the regulation of air and food separately into the food pipe and into the windpipe. Now after the pharynx comes the esophagus. So yes, esophagus is also called as food pipe, is a muscular tube that passes from our mouth till our stomach. So yes, this orange marked structure here is the esophagus. This one is the esophagus. Now, when the food we eat passes through pharynx, here we studied that this part was pharynx. Now, the food that we eat, when it passes from pharynx and reaches the entrance of the esophagus, so then only a cartilaginous flap-like structure known as epiglottis. As you can see in this image on the left side, that this light blue colored marked structure is known as epiglottis, which is present at the entrance of the esophagus. So basically this epiglottis prevents the entry of food into the glottis. That is the opening of windpipe. As we know that the food pipe and windpipe are present close to each other. So So to prevent the food entering inside the windpipe, the epiglottis there works and it actually regulates the food inside the food pipe only. Now, at the end of the esophagus, present the gastroesophageal sphincter. So the point or the opening I'm talking about is present here at the end of the esophagus, that is gastroesophageal sphincter. Now basically this is the opening which is present at the end of the esophagus and it allows the food to enter inside the stomach here. Now what is regurgitation? So it is basically the backflow of the food inside the esophagus. So to prevent that backflow of the food, the gastroesophageal sphincter functions because it closes the moment the food enters inside the stomach. So yes, we now see that this thin tube-like structure, esophagus, it opens into the J-shaped bag-like structure called as stomach, through which the food passes. So stomach basically is the J-shaped dilated portion of our alimentary canal. And it also acts as a temporary storage tank for the food that we eat, and also the gastric juice which is present inside our stomach, it is also help or it also acts as the site for the breakdown of our food. This gastric juice that is present inside our stomach. Now, our stomach is divided into three parts, that is fundus, second is cardiac, and third one is the pylorus. So, at the end of this pylorus, or we can call it as the pyloric region, lies the pyloric sphincter. Pyloric sphincter, which allows the food to enter inside the small intestine. Small intestine. So here is another interesting fact, that the size of the stomach always varies with the amount of the food that it contains or the amount of food that we eat. So now the stomach opens into the small intestine. And the small intestine basically is a muscular tube which extends from this pyloric sphincter. Now what was pyloric sphincter? It was the opening between the stomach and the small intestine present right here. So yes, the small intestine is the tube that extends from the pyloric sphincter till the large intestine, just starting from here. Now this is the starting of large intestine. Now, the small intestine is divided into three parts. First one is duodenum, second one is jejunum, and the third part is the ileum. Now, when we talk about the duodenum, so duodenum is the U-shaped portion present at the start of the small intestine. So here the U-shaped portion you see right after the stomach is the duodenum. So basically it is the U-shaped portion of small intestine. Now after the duodenum comes the jejunum. So jejunum is the coiled portion present after the duodenum part of the small intestine. Now comes the ileum. Now ileum is the supercoiled portion of small intestine, supercoiled portion which opens in the large intestine. Now here is a fact that the maximum breakdown and absorption of food takes place inside the small intestine in our whole digestive system. Now comes our second last part of the digestive system, that is the large intestine. Now large intestine is shorter in length as compared to the small intestine. And basically the main function of large intestine here is that it dries out the indigestible food by absorbing water present in it. Also, the function of large intestine is to eliminate the feces which is produced or formed after the whole absorption or digestion process. Now comes the part of the large intestine. It is divided into the cecum. Here is the cecum. Now cecum is the first part of the small intestine. Then comes the colon. Colon is the second part of the large intestine. And then comes the rectum, which is the third part of the large intestine. Now if we'll talk about the cecum. So cecum basically is the small blind sac present at the opening of the large intestine. It is the small blind sac. Also, it hosts many symbiotic organisms inside it. Now, the cecum opens into the colon, which is divided into 4 parts. And first one is the ascending colon. Second is the transverse colon. Third is the descending colon. And fourth one is the sigmoid colon. Now this sigmoid colon, you see here, it opens into the rectum, which is the third part of the large intestine. Now inside the rectum, the feces which is formed is stored temporarily. It is stored temporarily inside the rectum. And through this rectum, the feces exits the body through the last part of our digestive system, that is the anus. Now anus becomes our last part of the digestive system through which the feces stored in the rectum exits our body and which completes the whole digestion process. So with this we finish our topic alimentary canal. I hope you understood this topic really well. Now you can go to EduRev to attempt the respective tests to cross-check your understanding. Also stay tuned for more amazing content. Thank you.